Good day, I'm Junior Researcher Adam Southgate, and in today's lecture we'll be covering the Fey Sphere's Peilotiaid Corff. I'd appreciate that all hunters please subscribe, as to not miss any future lectures, and also, if you enjoy the lecture and find it informative, please like the video and click the bell to ensure you do not miss any future announcements. I would also be very happy to hear your thoughts, views and stories of your own interactions with the monsters of the spheres in the comment area of this video. Also, I'm always ready to answer any questions you may have, and please share these lectures with any hunters you feel would benefit from them. So, to begin, as always, we'll start with our general announcements. Firstly, a continuation of the Umbra D situation within the new build home. To recap, a new build home became suddenly overrun with Umbra D during a family get-together. This was odd due to the circumstances needed to form an Umbra D not being present at the site. Freelance Hunter, the Slumbering Sanctuary, along with his team member Maiko, took on the contract where they used the light trap method to destroy the entities. They were left with more questions than answers, however, as they discovered a body and a strange capsule that did not belong at the premises. Since then, we have examined both the unidentified female body and the odd device, and discovered some interesting and alarming details. The body, while being somewhat charred due to the manner of death, possessed no identifying markings, at least not on the surface. After an X-ray examination of the corpse, we found that the individual's bones had somehow been chiseled with a vast network of intricate carvings. We are currently in the process of stripping the flesh from the corpse to gain a more detailed look at these markings. The capsule that was found, the inside of which painted a deep black while the outside was a bright white, is theorized to be a device specifically designed to hold a single Umbra D specimen. This is massively worrying, as it would allow someone to use the entity as a grenade weapon, literally by simply throwing the capsule at your intended target, with it opening from the impact of the device making contact with the ground. We currently have two separate theories as to the nature of this developing threat. The first is a typical entropic necromancer that may have entered into Wales, while the second is possibly an entropic cult. We will have to wait until more details become available to us before we can say either way. However, we are advising all hunters to remain vigilant where the entropic sphere is concerned. Secondly, an abomination sphere's Blissful Bach has been spotted within the Erie National Park. Following reports of a large number of cattle going missing in the surrounding area, along with the discovery of a thick tar-like substance, gamekeepers were dispatched. It did not take long for the entity to be discovered, it being observed piling the bodies of hikers, cows and deer into a mound to be devoured. What makes things somewhat more difficult, however, is that the entity appears to be nesting within a disused recycler barrow. It was observed when not hunting to retreat to this underground position. This does imply that the Blissful Bach in question is preparing to give birth. This is a high-priority contract, as if the entity is left to reproduce within the recycler tunnels, it will be next to impossible to hunt down each of its young, the tunnels of recyclers stretching for miles. Along with this, the young of Blissful Bach have a fleeing instinct from the moment they're birthed, to avoid becoming their parents' next meal. We believe that hunters, both with experience fighting in underground environments and in taking down abomination entities, will be needed for this contract. It must also be mentioned that the tunnels in question have been empty for the past decade. As such, they will be highly unstable without the care of the recyclers who maintained them. Sadly, sealing the tunnels is a no-go, as we do not know all the exits to the complex. Along with this, due to the entity having recently eaten, luring out the beast will also not be possible until after it has given birth, and so going in is our only recourse. Those interested can apply for the bounty at their local order office or can contact me directly through the comment section of this video. The Peilotiaid Corff, also known as the micro-pixies, are a subspecies of pixie named for their diminutive size, even when compared to others within the same Fey family. Standing at half a centimetre tall, or 0.197 inches on average, the Peilotiaid Corff have been described as a eusocial species, however, only to the extent that humanity is a eusocial species. They live within large communities that could be described as cities. These cities regularly interact and trade with each other for both resources and people. However, each Peilotiaid Corff is an individual in their own right, capable of independent thought and want. Their so-called eusociality was described after a researcher witnessed their cooperative response to danger. However, this can also be observed within communal species, like ourselves. The eusocial tag was most likely given to them solely due to their size, which coloured the researcher's perspective. This is a trap that researchers often can fall into, as we tend to look at the entities from the spheres with our own sphere's perspective. It is important to look at all information with a critical eye to avoid falling into this trap. So, the Peilotiaid Corff are a species of diminutive pixies with a similar communal lifestyle to ourselves, and not a eusocial colony like in the case of our sphere's ants and bees. However, this is not the most interesting aspect of the Peilotiaid Corff. What's fascinating and horrifying in equal measure about these pixies is where their cities are located, within the hollowed out and then puppeteered corpses of human beings. To begin, a human being is attacked by a group of literally glassy-eyed and leathery-skinned people. They restrain the human, then choking the life out of them. Once a person has expired, they will open the body, carefully removing all organs and muscles, while also draining the blood. This offal will be devoured by the glassy-eyed attackers, after which the skin and bones will be cleaned. The skin, over the course of the next few days, will be tanned into leather, while the bones will be boiled and then dried, ready for the next stage. Once ready, an intricate system of wooden pulleys, ropes, and leather sacks with primitive pumps will be attached to the now reassembled skeleton, and the tanned skin will be stitched back over this structure. Two of the glassy-eyed people will then hold the hands of this creation for several days, until eventually it begins moving of its own accord. Now, what to us appears like a bizarre and extreme act of violence and mutilation, to the Peilotiaid Corff was in fact a large-scale construction project. You see, the glassy-eyed people are not as they seem. Each contain an entire city of the small pixies, simply going about their daily lives. While each of these mad constructs are different from each other, there are enough similarities to be able to create a rough breakdown. Starting with the head. The eyes have been removed and replaced with clear glass. This allows those within to look out and view the world. The skull, now devoid of its brain, has been filled with homes, businesses, and the overall command center where the body is controlled. The jaw, still being necessary for the entrance of food for the city, has been wired up with the ropes and pulleys to allow for the chewing of food before it's swallowed. The neck is still mobile, however the pulley system has been adapted to make the head gyroscopically stable, giving the minority that dwell within the skull a stable place to live, while at the same time still allowing it to be turned in times of need. Moving down the torso, as stated, all organs have been removed, and in their place is a vast number of different structures, from large collections of homes and businesses to vital artificial organs. Covering the three main ones, we'll start with the stomach, typically a wooden barrel-like creation where the food can be collected and sorted by the pixies. This food will then either be sold or distributed around the city, depending on how they've structured their society. The second is the lung. This is a large leather sac connected to a primitive pump. Air is pulled into the lung, and then a valve is switched and the air is pushed around the inside of the body. This air is then pulled back into the lung and expelled. Finally is the central engine. This is placed within the space the intestines used to occupy, and is the device that powers the construct, pulling the ropes that crisscross the inside of the body, enabling the limbs to move. How this device is powered is beyond our current understanding, as is its construction, being made of a dense layered wood carved with details micrometers small. Each of the limbs are wired up with the same pulley system, the wooden wheels being literally screwed into the bones. This gives the pixies exceptional control over the body they now inhabit, with some even being capable of a slow run. Where muscles and flesh once were has since been replaced with wooden structures whose primary purpose is to fill out the limbs. At the same time, they act as corridors for transport between cities when this is needed. Within the palm of the hands is a small doorway, allowing the pixies within the body access to the outside world. These doors can be locked together with another cities for the purposes of trade. As previously mentioned, the skin of the body is tanned to prevent decay. However, even with this, it cannot stop degradation entirely. This is why the older examples of these cities are a patchwork of different human and animal leathers, as the pixies within repair tears across their structure. An interesting aspect of these entities, however, is that each community of millions within each individual city is wholly unique. Just as with disconnected communities of humans, each Peilotiaid Corff community possesses their own political and cultural systems. Of the many we have observed, we have seen feudal, capitalistic, communist, and dictatorial, to name a few, but it goes beyond even this, with different cities having completely different faiths from each other. These beliefs develop separately within their cities and can be diametrically different and contradictory to the faiths of those within other cities, and what's fascinating is what happens when these beliefs meet. When a city has reached capacity, they will, with other cities within the same area, attempt to kill and transform a human into a new city. After the preliminary stages are complete, two cities will connect to the new one via the hands, allowing workers to enter and begin construction of the new homes and the more delicate work. After all the work is finished, around 25% of the population of each of the older cities will migrate to the new one, where a new society will be formed. You would expect this to be a social nightmare, with people with vastly different beliefs, both spiritually and politically, wrestling for control. However, this is not what has been observed. Instead, the two communities will engage in a large-scale debate. This can last months, at the end of which the matter will be solved, typically by the fusing of the spiritual and political beliefs together in a new form that is internally consistent. It is almost unbelievable that this never results in violence between the populations. However, this is the case. We believe that this is due to a rare aspect of the Peilotiaid Corff that does not exist typically amongst Fae, a fundamental value for each other's lives. This belief does not extend to any other form of life, Fae or otherwise, as is plain by how they treat human beings. We have, through great effort, managed to communicate with various cities of Peilotiaid Corff, the task made all the more difficult due to many cities speaking completely different languages. Through these conversations, we learned very quickly that despite our best efforts, they view us as cattle at best and real estate at worst. While they are fully capable of understanding argument and nuance amongst themselves, they appear unable or unwilling to consider the arguments of other species, which they consider lesser. Also, I don't want to overstate their internal empathy for each other, as while those dwelling within the same city will not come to blows, the same cannot be said for disconnected cities. In fact, the further their cities are separated geographically from each other, the more likely it is for them to go to war with each other if they were to meet. I've left a quick description of this within the cultural differences section of this slide. But how does a hunter deal with a community of Peilotiaid Corff? Well, the first thing to mention is the most likely location you are to find them. Typically, they will slowly take over a small rural town or village of no more than 200 people. This is done to avoid detection. As hunters, your first and most important goal will be to get an accurate count of the cities within the area. You cannot allow a single one to escape, as due to what they are, millions inside of one, it only takes one city to restart the problem. Once you believe you have an accurate count, you'll want to surround the town or village, slowly moving in to close the noose. As for weapons, while the Peilotiaid Corff are as susceptible to cold iron as any other Fae, damaging the body they reside within does not kill the individuals inside. The best approach is fire, as this will both destroy the body but also kill those within. Even in this case, a few of the individuals inside will escape. However, alone and absent their corpse city, they will not last long. Both the elements and wildlife will quickly finish the job. We suggest the use of flammable liquid to douse them with, then setting the bodies ablaze. As combatants, they are slow and cumbersome. Though strong, they act as ambush hunters, as too quick of movement would cause damage to the internal structures they live within. You should remain light on your feet at all times, avoiding being within arm's reach, as if they are able to grab you, they could easily break your neck. Mobility is your greatest asset when going against a Peilotiaid Corff city. Restraining devices such as the man-catcher have proven ineffective and should not be used due to the high levels of strength that they are able to bring to bear, being able to either snap the wooden pole the catcher is attached to or even being able to break the catcher open. Hunters with Pinocchio prosthetic legs should only take on these entities if they possess utmost confidence in their ability to use them effectively. I find the Peilotiaid Corff a sad case, as societally speaking, they are probably the closest entities to us in behaviour. In a perfect world, we would be able to create an alliance with these entities, providing for them a home that does not require the death of someone to create. However, despite a great effort, they are completely unwilling or unable to view us as anything more than a shell to be hollowed out. But that will be all for today. With Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom, thank you.